Hello, everybody. I am calling to order this meeting of the King George County Board of Supervisors and the Service Authority, our last meeting of 2024. Will everybody please stand and have our invocation led by Supervisor Davis? Oh, sorry. I will start again. How's that? So it can be recorded. Let's start over. Retake. I'm calling to order this meeting of the King George County Board of Supervisors, last meeting of the year, and the Board of Directors. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. The invocation will be led by Supervisor Davis.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Just thank you for a day that we get to come together as a county and lean on you for wisdom, just make the right decisions and things that are going to form our county the next 10, 20 years. Lord, just help us to find the common ground that we have and work on ways together to make things work. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Do we have any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda. I move that we amend the agenda to discuss the Walnut Hill project, please.
And looking at the agenda, moving it to the end in a closed session. Can you amend?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to amend that to move the Walnut Hill discussion to the end and make it a closed session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, have a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, the motion's carry. Do I have a second amendment to the agenda?
Yes, ma'am, Chair. I'd like to move that we add item SA-12-07A to discuss hop yard sludge press
To the Board of Directors?
to the Board of Directors agenda. Yes, thank you.
All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion carries. With that, we have amended the agenda. We will now move on to public comment. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. Please provide your full name and district when submitting your public comment so that it can be properly included in the public record. First on our list is Pastor Davis.
Surprise.
You always are first.
All right, I'm Pastor Davis from the Dahlgren District. That's where I vote, down there in Dahlgren. And I'm here, of course, tonight to wish all of you a Merry Christmas. And I think I've attended every meeting this year except one. I had a school board meeting one night to ask to do the invocation. Didn't make this one, but it's a privilege to be able to come in and read Scripture each month. I want to ask the question before I read my verse, why did Jesus come? Why did he have to come to earth? Why was he born? Why did he have to die? And why did he have to resurrect from the grave? Well, the answer to that is pretty simple, because of us. That's why he had to come. And his mission was to reach lost, fallen man. Life without God is absolutely meaningless, and to die without Christ is a terrible eternity. But my favorite gospel is the Gospel of Luke, and I want to read you a verse, the key verse of the Gospel of Luke. There are 24 chapters in the Gospel of Luke, 1,151 verses, and the 848th verse in Luke's Gospel is the key verse of the Gospel. It is a simple verse. It has 16 words, simple message. It's not any two-syllable words in the verse, but it's the key verse for the book of Luke. And the scripture says that the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which is lost. The key verse, why Jesus come? To seek and to save that which was lost. And so sometimes we confuse things. Oftentimes we complicate things, but there's no hidden agenda in the Bible. Jesus came to seek and to save that which is lost. So all of us need Jesus, all of us need a Savior. If we didn't, he wouldn't have had to come. And so God the Son, who is eternal, unto us a son is born. He always has been, but he was given to us because we needed forgiveness. And so we rejoice in the fact that eternal matters to God, eternal matters matter most. It's my prayer this year that I've been some kind of a little blessing as we read scripture each week, and that the good Lord will bless you. And from Tabernacle Baptist Church, we send, of course, greetings and by the way, we are open on Sundays, just in case y'all didn't know that. And so you're invited, of course, to come and celebrate this time that you're with us. God bless you. We love you. Thank you for your good service. I think you're doing a great job. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Davis. Next up is Anna Marie.
Hi, my name is Ana Maria Lobo. Okay, my name is Ana Maria Lobo, and I live in Presidential 8. And I think my district is Jane Madison. Well, tonight I want to thank you for your service to the community. And I also believe that you have been working very hard to reduce the counties and service authority debt. I have been asking for a long time to reduce the debt, but sometimes I feel frustrated seeing the needless spending and the failure to pay fines and take care of things that need to be repaired. Things like the leaking water tank and the corroded pipes at Nendi's store that was founded in 2019. Had these things been fixed? I want to know. I don't think that any of this is your fault, though. This problem that happened over many, many years, but tonight I asking you to do the right thing and fix these problems and make sure that they're done correctly. Spend our tax dollars wisely and don't waste them. Also, a special thanks to the Parks and Recreation for doing an amazing job with children and adults service. And a very special thanks to the Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, for all the hard work they do for our community day in and day out. They put their lives on the line in service to our community and citizens. It's thanks to them that we live in a safe King George County. Thank you to all of you, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you. Good job.
Thank you very much. Mr. Stork.
Good evening. Thank you, Ms. Bender, and members of the board and staff. I'm David Stork. I'm a resident of the town of Bowling Green in Caroline County, but I'm from King George, and I operate 2 businesses here, Historyland Memorial Park and Arboretum and Stork Funeral Home. And the reason I wanted to come tonight was to express our gratitude to one of your staff members. This year, for several years, we've at the cemetery on 301 at Historyland, we've been wanting to participate in just a wonderful program called Wreaths Across America. And I'm sure most of y'all have heard about it. It's a program that everyone thinks of when they think of Arlington National Cemetery or possibly a veteran cemetery like Quantico. But Wreaths Across America was started at those cemeteries, but it's now translated down to private and other public cemeteries. And so we've been talking about doing it for several years, and we had one of your staff members in the fire and rescue, Elliot Ganson, come to us, and he had done this in another locality wherever he lived, and he volunteered his time, and he basically through his previous experience with it put the whole program on, and we had such a huge outpouring. Those wreaths are purchased, and we had enough donations to pay for all the wreaths and towards next year. For a first-time event, you don't get a lot of people, in my experience. We had over 150 people, and I want to thank Mr. Sullins, Ms. Bender for being there. Mr. Sullins, thank you for participating in the wreath laying ceremony. He represented the Navy when we recognized that branch. But Mr. Ganson just absolutely did a wonderful job, and there were several other members of Fire and Rescue there that day and just put on a wonderful program. And I just wanted to publicly thank him and your Fire and Rescue. And we're going to do it again next year, and he's agreed to do it and help us as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. James Shaw.
James Shaw, James Monroe District, columnist for the Northern Next Sentinel, citizen journalist, kgmedia.top, not speaking in my capacity as EDA member. New hat. drone hunter. I was hoping this hat could quietly slide by, but conversations with observant local residents makes it clear that some truth is needed to offset the rumors. More people are looking into the sky, so more people are going to see things they have not seen before. You have your airline jets, two-seater Cessnas, V-22 Ospreys, medevac helicopters, and the like. You have hobbyists who went down to Walmart, spent $49.99 to get something to mess around with in their backyard. You have 3 men in Boston whose drone violated airspace around Logan Airport. 2 were arrested, 1 is on the run. You have the Stafford Sheriff's deputy whose 40-mile-an-hour recon drone was left in the dust by a 60-mile-an-hour plus drone that escaped. The U.S. Navy tested a patented drone in October 23 from a floating mothership which had a top speed of 115 miles an hour. It should not surprise anyone that adversaries would want to take advantage of the melee and inserting some of their reconnaissance drones into the mix to do some of their spying. Many possibilities here. And the government isn't talking clearly. So citizen journalists like myself have to fill in the gaps with unfiltered, verifiable, and sound information from many, many sources, sometimes unusual ones. My father did secret defense work, so I learned early on there are some things one does not say in public because even the bad actors are listening. Some of these drones seem to be looking for something, likely radioactive. There are at least 2 dubious cover stories out there that follow that theme. And so we pray that the search is successful and that normalcy may return to our quiet and peaceful King George County. It will be interesting to read how many drone calls are logged on the sheriff's report next month. May God bless the King George Renaissance.
Thank you, Pastor Shaw. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to come up and give public comment? Please come to the podium.
Good evening, Ms. Bender and members of the board. My name is Savannah Carabin-Wimbush. I'm standing here today deeply concerned and disappointed by your decision to appeal the variance granted for our family's property at 16012 Machotic Drive in the Dahlgren District. Our goal is simple and a practice commonly permitted: build an accessory structure in the landward 50 feet of the 100-foot RPA buffer on a lot that predates the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Act. The zoning overlay placed on this property has left only 6% of the lot buildable. Even the primary residence on this peninsula-shaped lot encroaches into the RPA, highlighting the extraordinary circumstances of this case. This is precisely the reason why the variance process was designed. There is no risk of precedent considering the amount of RPA on this parcel, which is not likely duplicated on any other parcel. In the summons, the county claims we did not meet the variance criteria and we failed to establish a hardship. However, this process is made clear by Virginia Code and the county's new zoning ordinance, which only defines how the county may administratively approve encroachments into the RPA without a public hearing. In all other cases like ours, a public hearing is required and the BZA decides that the conditions for a variance have been met. The initial recommendation to deny the application and the recommendation to appeal it to circuit court based on subjective feelings is a misrepresentation of the law and its intent. There is no hardship to be proven, RPA intrusion or otherwise, and I highly encourage you to take a hard look for yourself at Article 3, Division 5, Sections 1 and 2 of your new zoning ordinance, but I will state, a variance shall be granted if the evidence shows that the strict application of the terms of this ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. The BZA carefully reviewed these criteria over 3 meetings and unanimously voted in our favor. That decision was not arbitrary, but grounded in the law and evidence and bound by the ordinance and the criteria that it utilized. At no time during any of this did your council say these are the wrong criteria for a variance. Yet you all appealed that decision after it was added to the agenda at the last minute. Are you truly suggesting that in one closed session, you reviewed nearly 6 hours of meeting recordings and findings and deliberations that the BZA painstakingly considered over multiple meetings? As of today, the meeting minutes are not public and have not been approved by the BZA. Lastly, I urge you to consider your proposed vision statement to promote general welfare by maintaining a rural county where all citizens can enjoy freedom and prosperity with limited government intrusion. How does this lawsuit align with that vision? Instead of fostering prosperity, this action feels like an unnecessary overreach targeting homeowners acting within the law. We ask that you withdraw your direction to challenge the variance, respect the unanimous decision of the BZA, and allow us to move forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else in the audience like to give public comment? Jeff, is there anybody online who would like to give public comment? No. Has anybody received any correspondence that be read into? With that being said, I will close public comment and I will move on to reports of members of the board. And now for the first time, I'm going to try to see if I get this right. Lee Robotham. Did I get it right? Thank you. Figure the last of the year, I got to get it right.
Hey, it took all year, but you got it. It's all right. Hey, no, I appreciate it, Ms. Bender. Firstly, I just want to say Merry Christmas to the board members and members of the county, as well as all those present and online. I want to thank the board for nominating me for this position. I appreciate your judgment and your trust that you've put in me to support this position. And it's been great working with the board of directors and the members of the county this year. So thank you. It's been great support, great work by the Service Authority team all year long. It's been a tough year, but there's been a lot that's been done. I think as we've seen all year, it's been a great year for the Service Authority. There's definitely more that I think has been done this year than I've seen in many, many years past. There's some of the debt's been paid down. There's a substantial reduction in debt that's been occurred by the Service Authority itself, and there's significant improvements to the capabilities in the county that we've made throughout the year. So I think it's been a great year. With that, again, just Merry Christmas to everybody. I appreciate your willingness to appoint me to the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Davis?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you to everyone who stepped up and spoke out. Thank you, Mr. Stark, for bringing in, to just mention Elliot Ganson, was that his name? And just thank you to him, and thank you to all the other fire and rescue that took part in, really just making King George look good, which it's good that when you see people acting like part of the community, that kind of how this place always been. I do want to make 2 nominations. I want to appoint Ms. Delaney Richards to the EDA board.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
And I'd also like to appoint Nathan Ackerman to the Landfill Advisory Committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Supervisor Stroud?
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks, everybody came out and spoke tonight. So not repeating Mr. Davis any further, I just appreciate everybody that came out. And Ms. Lavelle, thank you for your faithful service to the county. I mean, you hit, like Pastor Davis hit all but one meeting, so I think you hit them all as well. So thank you so much for being engaged in the community. So it looks like Miss Savannah left. On 16 December, I met with Miss Mary Parnell with the Workforce Housing Project. She purchased 16 acres in Shiloh behind the Family Dollar. The property used to belong to the Project Faith. They intend to build some houses focused, she said, focused on King George employees' affordability. to be able to live closer to where they work. She's seeking to brief us on the project at a future meeting. She's looking to get our support or our approval to apply for a grant with the community development block grant. She needs our approval to do that. I accepted an invitation to the South Potomac Civilian Military Community Relations, which is a ComRail. It was to go this month, and due to some challenges with scheduling, it got moved to January the 9th. That meeting's being hosted by the King George County at 8 a.m. University of Mary Washington at the Dahlgren campus. And outside of that, I would like to also wish everybody a Merry Christmas. And thank you, everybody that came and showed up and continues to show up. We look forward to seeing you in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Solms?
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to echo my colleagues. Thanks to everybody that's continue to show up and get involved and listen to what we say. I also offer thanks to those that are online listening and check it out later and interact. You know, it's government of the county is something that we should, it's a team sport. We should all be working it together. So I really appreciate folks that get involved. Having said that, it's been a fairly busy couple of weeks here. Mr. Davis and I got to meet with people from Green Energy Ventures and talk about updates on their proposal for the data center that they want to put in down on Route 3 just past Hop Yard. Following that, we also got to sit in on the Planning Commission meeting that night and listen to a proposal for putting in a battery storage center. Ms. Bender and I got to go to the King George Historical Society Christmas dinner, and I saw Mr. Stroud there briefly, but I think work called him out. And Mr. Stork, I want to thank you again for hosting the Wreaths Across America thing. I've done that at the up at Quantico when I was a member of the Civil Air Patrol, and doing it here, it was a very different scale, but really it was a touching event. I really enjoyed it, so thank you for hosting that. And then finally, last night, got to sit in on the George Washington Regional Commission a workshop on homeless prevention. And I'm excited to say that of the homelessness that's in the regional area, King George, we only have about 4% of the people that are in that. So that's a good thing to know that we have a relatively low amount. Obviously, any homelessness is too much, so we want to work on getting that fixed. But that's what this workshop was about, was trying to find ways for getting folks off the street, getting them a warm, safe place to sleep. And at least with some of the shelters, also providing them training and a means of getting back into the work environment so they can have their own home again someday. So been a fun, productive 2 weeks, and have more meetings to follow. Seems like everything is piling up here in the last couple of weeks of the year. So good stuff. Thank y'all.
Thank you very much. For my report, I attended the Christmas tree lighting. I want to thank the King George Historical Society and the Parks and Rec Department and every other staff member who helped maintenance, the whole gamut, put on a nice presentation. Attended the historical Christmas party, Wreaths Across America. Thank you once again, Mr. Stork, for putting on an event, and the Fire and Rescue for helping to bring the idea forefront and to help organize it. I did attend the Rappahannock River Basin Commission, where we discussed many things about the Rappahannock River, especially about surface water, the intakes, and data centers. Yesterday, I actually went down to the Eastern Virginia Groundwater Management Advisory Committee. Say that 4 times real fast. One of the big things that I pointed out, they had a presentation on the new modeling that is soon to be coming out, showing critical cells, including the extreme critical cells that they've identified. And there are 3 aquifers. There's the Potomac Aquifer, then there's one above it, the Aquia Aquifer, and then there's, I think it's the Piney Point Aquifer is the other aquifer. And King George, especially in the Hop Yard area, does have an extreme critical cell, and it concerns me because that is where some of the intakes are and data center development. So I will be requesting the slides to pass on to my colleagues. I tried to take pictures at the time, but it was really hard, and there was a lot of detailed maps, and I was a little bit of a distance away. So I'm going to be requesting the slides so that I can share them with everyone. Couple other things I wanted to mention, that I chair Healthy Generations, which is the Rappahannock Area Agency on Aging. Everybody has to have long names. We are actually hosting their senior Christmas party tomorrow from 10 to 2 at the Citizens Center. So if anybody wants to come out and greet our seniors, or I think the band might be showing up to perform some jazz for them, and the seniors really do appreciate seeing folks there. I've gone a couple of years. My daughter actually played flute one year, and they really did appreciate the live performance. So hopefully they fit in their schedule and the band can come over and perform for the seniors. And if you'd like to come over and stop by, they probably would really appreciate it at the Citizen Center. I'm just checking my list. I will have a further board report about the Service Authority year-end review, but I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. And to end this 2024 season, as many know, there are 2 board seats that are up next year for election. Mine is one of them, and I will be putting my name in the ring. So on January 1st, you'll probably see me going around getting signatures. So I intend to run again. Thank you very much. That is the end of my board report. Next up is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I move that the consent agenda be approved as stated.
Do I have a second?
Second.
That being said, it is a roll call vote. Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Mr. Sullins?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. I know I have some constitutional officers in the audience. Would anybody like to come up and give? Ms. Puckett? No. All right, with that being said, we will move on now to the Board of Directors of the Service Authority. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented in the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
With the motion properly seconded, any further discussion? All right, roll call vote. Mr. Robotham?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Sullins?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Next up is in Bowdoin Environmental Services Monthly Utility Report.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Great to be with you all here. So a lot going on in the month of November, but we'll start off on the water side. There some air release valves on the green sand filters were repaired. Still trying to identify the system that those were repaired on, because there's about 12 of them right now. But your report that you received did not have that clarified, so we will be getting that clarified and distributed to you yet again. The Owens system had a lot of work completed to it, including a chemical dosing pump replacement. We can go back one slide to the water, as well as, thank you, also the finished water meter was replaced. We are also collecting samples for PFAS. That is a new upcoming issue that many water systems are facing, and the EPA has now promulgated regulations to enforce new limits for PFAS. And we are in the midst of the initial sampling and testing for these various chemical species. And so chemical sample test kits were received and samples were collected at Arnold's, Clydell, as well as Perkins. All systems of various sizes have to be sampled and reported on at least twice between now and 2027. And so it is our intent to get ahead of the game and get those numbers in to really identify where we are at.
Can you explain what a PFA is, just for those? There's lots of acronyms we throw around.
Certainly. So PFAS, the chemical scientific name for it, you do not need to memorize this, but it's polyfluoroalkyl substances. It is considered forever chemicals, and forever chemicals are in many different things that we use in everyday life. But it is used in fire suppression foam. It's used in many different manufacturing, in different, even consumables and toiletry items, for like hair and shampoo and body wash. It is very prevalent pretty much everywhere, and it's something that the EPA has identified as a concern, and they have established a limit, which is 4 parts per trillion. And that is the lowest that laboratories can detect of the substances. And we're now being regulated to have our drinking water maintain levels of PFAS that are less than detect, or less than 4 parts per trillion. So, Mr. Sully, do you have a question?
Mr. Solms?
Sorry. Sometimes the questions pop up on my face.
So,
No, I was just wondering, how can that be the standard that it's 4 parts per trillion, but we're held to a higher standard? Did I understand that right?
so 4 parts per trillion is what the laboratory can detect. So
Okay.
EPA has said no level is safe for chronic, you know, a chronic position for drinking water. No level is safe. And so 4 parts per trillion is what the method can detect, that the laboratory can detect. And so if you're under the laboratory detection, you're within the regulatory limits.
So it could be 0 to 3. They don't care because they can't detect it anyway.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Does anybody else have any questions on this particular item? Continue.
All right, so we'll go to the wastewater. A lot of things happened in the wastewater side. So we'll start with Dahlgren. There was a reused pump number 1. It had its packing replaced and the screens cleaned and put back into service. Also, the polymer system on the sludge press was repaired. We installed a static mixer, and the injection point for that polymer chemical was relocated for better efficiency. The mechanical screen at the influent, what screens out a lot of inorganic material, rags, other debris, plastics, that sort of thing. That has been non-operational for quite some time, but that has now been removed and sent out for repair, and we are in its place operating what is called a bar screen. It's a very mechanical device that our operators go in and physically have to clean every day. There was, because of the mechanical screen failure, there was a significant accumulation of rags and other fibrous debris in the influent pump station that caused pump number 3 to fail and have to be replaced. And then we also, the King George maintenance guys came in and they actually cleaned out that influent lift station for us to remove all of that fibrous debris. At Hop Yard, there were blower PMs that were completed, as well as a digester. I had a level transducer installed, and that allows us to monitor the level on SCADA, and we can better operate the digester in a more efficient manner to thicken our sludge, and so we're not hauling as much sludge out to the Dahlgren facility. We're not paying to haul water. We're trying to increase the efficiency of the digester by thickening that sludge as much as possible. For Perkins, the electrical components for Plant B anoxic mixer, as you remember from last month's meeting, that mixer in the anoxic zone had failed, and that was the cause of the TKN violations that we had. All of those components on the electrical side that was causing that anoxic mixer to fail, those were replaced, and we're utilizing the anoxic zone of the treatment plant. Ergo, we now have denitrification at the Perkins facility, which has, if you look in your monthly report, the TKN values for Perkins were all below the permit limits, and so that was effective. We also replaced some PAC, which is another sequestering chemical for phosphorus. We replaced a chemical feed pump as well as tubing, just preventative in nature, just to make sure that that chemical system, that injection system is solid. Oakland Park, there is an exceedance for TKN, which is another nitrogen species for the month of November. And the reason for this is kind of similar to reports past, but these are all electrical in nature. We have multiple blower shutdowns, mixer shutdowns, and to all of our critical infrastructure that provide the beneficial treatment for nitrogen removal, which is the TKN, they constantly and consistently shut down, and the King George County Maintenance is looking into why that is happening. Also, we have multiple clogs on the RAS, or the return activated sludge line, that recycles a lot of the sludge inside the treatment plant to the head of the treatment plant to keep the biological activity of the treatment plant active. So I know I threw a lot of information out there, but is there any other questions about the Oakland Park, specifically the exceedance that we had for the month of November?
Do we have anybody ask any questions on that? And I will want to state, as Mr. Bowden, I did receive yesterday a couple of notices of violation. These were, DEQ has a backlog, and these were violations that have already been mentioned in a previous board report, correct?
That is correct.
And I'll be sending those out in the weekly report. but they have a little backlog at DEQ right now.
They do. Fairview Beach, we did some work on the PLC for the on-site pump station as well. There was an influent splitter box, had a transducer to monitor the flow coming into the treatment plant. That was replaced. So that is it for the month of November. If there's any other questions about your utility report or anything that was discussed here, be happy to take those questions.
Do I have any questions? Thank you as always. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
All right, with that, we are now going to move on to the Intergovernmental Support Agreement, IGSA. Mr. Smolnik will present that information, and both of these items are action items, and they have come up just recently. So, Mr. Smolnik.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I really want to first of all say Mr. Adam Lynch from NSF Dahlgren is here. If there's any questions that I cannot answer, he wanted to be here to provide the ample information for the Board of Supervisors. So the first one under the Board of Directors relates to chemical purchases. So currently the county, there's an IGSA, Intergovernmental Services Agreement, with a base for the purchase of chemicals. That purchase or the current agreement spells out that the chemicals are to be used for the wastewater treatment plant on base. The base requested that we amend the existing agreement to it's the same chemical, just they're going to be buying it in larger quantities for their indoor pool. So they wanted to just to be above board, just to add in indoor pool is what they'd be using these chemicals for. So I sent this all to the Board of Supervisors and Board of Directors for your review. Pretty straightforward. No change in. We can obtain the chemicals. I verified that with the Service Authority. And if it's the will of the Board of Directors, looking for a motion to authorize Interim Chair Ms. Bender to execute the IGSA for chemical purchase on behalf of the King George County Board of Directors.
Do I have any discussion, questions? Does anybody want to make a motion or?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion, probably seconded. I think this would be a roll call vote. So, Mr. Robotham?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Sullins?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you. The next one is, this was added at the last minute due to our finance staff has been looking at all the ARPA funds we have left over from projects that had leftover money, and this money has to be allocated by December 31st. So Mr. Wasabi is going to explain why this is needed and why we're bringing this up for an action item. And the board has the packets with the cost at the dais. Mr. Wasabi.
Yeah, Mr. Young came to me, and we have approximately, it's about $230-some thousand remaining that needs to be assigned to one of the projects that was approved. And we have had this study that's not yet been finalized for the closure of the Oakland Park wastewater treatment plant. But what I suggested to him, since it was included, I believe, in the hop yard PER, to request DEQ if we could assign that money for a press for the hop yard wastewater treatment plant. I've been doing some analysis of your pump and haul for the last 4 or 5 years, and basically it's about 2.5 years for what you're spending on pumping and hauling, you could buy a new press. And one of the problems I think Mr. BOD might be able to speak of, that's a critical element, pressing in a treatment plant to make sure you meet the required standards of DEQ. Matter of fact, when I first started looking at all this, I was quite surprised that 4 of the treatment plants pump and haul to Dahlgren. I have never seen that anywhere before. And I believe since that plant now will be receiving the flows that are coming into Perkins Corner, I believe it's imperative that that type of equipment be put in. It's generally cheaper to do a sludge press than drying beds. So what my recommendation is that we authorize the Now, There may be some additional costs that you see in this report that are not covered by the grant, but there are funds that are being raised by, now that we've got the billing and all that corrected, there should be sufficient funds to cover these additional costs. And I would try, I don't know if Mark has anything to add, but I see it's like having a car with no wheels. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
And Mr. Davis, I know you have a question, but the other thing is we're waiting right now for the approval from DEQ to allow us to do that because the DEQ ARPA money is a little different in how we're allowed to move things along. So, Mr. Davis.
So if we make we're making a motion to action tonight, right? So if we make a motion, are you asking for the entire 230 or are you asking for the appropriate amount of ARPA funds to do this?
We have to allocate the $230-some thousand that's not allocated to anything right now. So we do have to allocate it to, I believe that's the hop yard and or upgrade and so forth that we'd be allocating that to.
Okay, thank you. I just want a clarification.
Just to clarify, it's from the DEQ grant, right? Not the VDH grant.
No, it's a DEQ grant.
Mr. Solons?
And one other, you may not even have to add local funds to it because there's a significant contingency in that budget, which I would be surprised if that entire contingency was used. So that I believe hopefully it'll be possible there'll be enough residual funds in the contingency to make up the difference. Although I can't assure you that at this time. It just seems like it's a significant amount for the percentage of contingency for such a project.
Before you ask your question, Mr. Solons, we did look at repurposing the Dahlgren sludge press that's coming out and refurbishing it. Would it be cheaper to buy a brand new one and with new parts, and we can use the old one as backup parts for the refurbishing of the building in place of the Dahlgren sludge press, since it'll be the same sludge press but rebuilt. We can use the old one to actually as spare parts. So, Mr. Solons?
You have a ballpark idea of what the residual funds would be, like the extra cost?
They're included in.
Okay, got it.
In the report. Also, there will have to be a building and piping and electrical constructed at that site, which we will have to probably discuss sometime later on next year.
Does anybody else have any questions? Lee, do you have any questions since it's in Hop Yard?
No, I think I agree with Mr. Wasabi. I think it's a good piece of equipment to have at the hop yard facility. With the old one coming out of Dahlgren. Kind of agreed. Trucking it all to Dahlgren for the entire time was unusual. I think with the flows that we're getting, I think putting it in there is it's definitely a good idea and a good use of the fund.
And it would save a lot of costs.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Lee, since you live so close, Mark and I have discussed we're going to probably have the alarms sent to your phone. Is that okay?
Thanks, Norm.
Do I have any other questions on this one? Or do I have a motion?
Make a motion. I'll try anyway. I make a motion to authorize to assign of the ARPA funds of $230,000 to purchase a new sludge press for the Hop Yard water plant.
And we have to designate, I guess the board designate to sign if we, is that correct? Can you help me out here, Charlie? To make sure we do the right motion. Mr. Davis, can you say it again? Is that a good motion?
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the ARPA funds of $230,000 and assign them to purchase a new sludge press for the Hop Yard water plant.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure because in the past we've had to be very specific. So, wastewater?
Yeah, wastewater.
You add with.
So amended, wastewater instead of water plant.
Right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion properly second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Robotham?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Solons?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wasabi, and Mr. Young, to bring that to the attention really quickly. So next up, I've got the 2024 year in review. It's 4 pages, but I really wanted to highlight, and I've skimmed through it, but not skim it through it, because it's very important for the public to hear the many accomplishments we've done in 12 months, and it's a team effort. The other thing I want to point out is this, and I'll pass this along down. These are the fog magnets we will be sending out in a couple of weeks to all the citizens to try to help to educate, because it's not only the businesses with fog, it's also the lift stations that are in the developments that are affected by people putting things down the drain that shouldn't be put down the drain. I remember when I toured the lift stations, they told me one time a bag of sweaters was put in the lift station. So it's really important. With this is also coming a newsletter that's being finally proofed. It is created already from Ms. Southall, and I've created, and that'll be coming soon, and that'll be included. So I'll send this down so everybody can see this, the fog magnets that will be coming to your house. And thank you for Ms. Southall and her staff for finalizing and coming up with a neat design for it. I'll pass that down. You see that? And I will continue on with our accomplishments for the year. As you know, the DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality, $16 million ARPA grant we were able to save. That was to decommission Perkins Corner and upgrade the Hop Yard wastewater treatment plant to handle the movement of the waste allocation to this plant, connecting the courthouse and Hop Yard water systems with new piping that is sized for future connections to the west, and a new force main. And that's all you see there from A to F, all the projects that have already been completed with that money. We also received $5 million ARPA grant from VDH, the Virginia Department of Health. This grant was given by the VDH with the direction of replacing aging infrastructure and improving fire protection and creating redundancy in these areas. We will, in the future, we've already done these bids, and most of them I've already signed off on. So it will be the interconnect from Canterbury to Circle, the interconnect from Circle to Courthouse, Arnold's Corner 1A improvement, and the new Fairview Beach well. We have also updated the King George Service Authority regulations. Those regulations were needed to be updated for ease of use and application. We've implemented the FOG program, which is the fats, oils, and grease that is causing a lot of cost and problems with the lift stations and wastewater plants. These issues led to violations to the wastewater treatment plant permits and added costs with burnt out motors and damaged equipment that has to be replaced, as we heard earlier in the report. We held a town hall for that and created mailers and a magnet to educate customers on the importance, and have worked with businesses to introduce the program and help with compliance. A new position was created for this job, and improvements have been seen in the lift stations and at the plants. And more work needs to be done, though. But I have heard from Mr. Rasavi talking to Richard today that is correct that all of the businesses have applied for their permits for the FOG. Mr. Rasavi? Yes, so that all businesses are now working towards compliance. Our service authority debt, our financials. With the soon-to-be completed audit, a clearer picture of the financial state of the service authority is formulating. With this, and revenue of all financials of the authority is in the work. We're going to look at all of that. And one area that was addressed was the line of credit of $15 million that was taken out in 2019. This was originally voted on to help make needed repairs and infrastructure improvements. This was done at the same time that the Davenport rate study was done, and the increases in the rate of a 5-year rate plan, and we refinanced the debt to a lower level. So this was all part of that. The reception of the ARPA funds came in 2020, as you know, with the pandemic, and that actually helped fund those. So the line of credit, unfortunately, was tapped in for the AMI metering project and to purchase a ditch witch by the former interim general manager. So with that, when it came to our attention, we brought it before the board. And as of November 7th, 2024, we, from the general fund, $1,299,736.47 was sent to Atlantic Union Bank, and that line of credit was paid off. And we do have a letter showing that that was paid off. So that is removed from the debt. We identified equipment needs and preventive maintenance items, the purchase of a new excavator, sludge press for Dahlgren, grinder for the headworks at Oakland Park, functioning diffusers for Perkins Corner, and there's many more. That was just a couple of things. The studying of the operations of the plant in coordination with the authority staff and in Bowdoin, areas that are currently being looked at are the following: aerators and rotor replacement at plants like Dahlgren to help keep the plants running smoothly and to stay in compliance. Specialized pumps that will send an alarm to operators and maintenance staff to tell when there is a clog. Immediate notification of that clause can then avoid violations and exceedance of permits. At one plant, we use 80 gallons a day of biocarb we injected to 2 receiving tanks. When the clog occurs and time elapses before cleaning them out, it puts a halt to the needed biological process. For under $1,000, the plants can then add these pumps and eliminate problems. The hop yard sludge press, we already talked about. That should be a cost savings in the end of not having to pay to haul and the operating of the overuse of the truck. And then also the Dahlgren wastewater sludge press, probably without all that excessive use, has led to its lifespan not being maybe as long as it could have been. We are working on improved procedures and reporting on maintenance and operations. We corrected the capital fee that was not being applied properly. Now businesses will be paying their fair share per ERC. Multiple ERCs are being charged that corresponds with the water usage. This will generate $60,000 about in additional revenue that will help with maintenance of the system. Updating job descriptions and positions contained in the service authority concerning the general manager position will reflect a more realistic picture of what the authority needs to fit our conditions. This advertisement will run in multiple venues where job seekers with our qualifications look for them. This position will be brought before the board in January with hopefully an advertisement later that month. Mr. Rasavi is working on it. We have a PER for Oakland Park wastewater treatment plant decommissioning and possible construction of an industrial use purple pipe to be sent to Hop Yard wastewater treatment plant. The cost savings for the 2 plants taken offline and streamline operations and reduction in violation or exceedances hopefully will occur with that. The potential purple pipe could bring in needed revenue to the authority by reselling reuse water back to the industry. Currently, it is in the draft stage and will be brought before the board next year in 2025. Hop Yard water permit issuance, we negotiated, completed, and signed the newly optioned 15-year tiered permit. This permit issuance will push the county towards surface water, and by year 10, we need a plan to do so, and by year 14, the current well will only be permitted to have half of its current allowance. Working on the new permit for the courthouse system due to the interconnects, this permit will be coming before the board next year. This permit, as we have been told by DEQ, will most likely be tiered also, and it will also trigger new modeling and a hard look at the available capacity for human consumption, industry, and commercial use in that corridor. We are bringing the billing system back in-house and which has saved about $250,000 yearly. It will also improve customer relations, bill payment, and reporting. One of the most important, I think, in this whole document is the improved relations with DEQ. We have continued conversations by phone, email, and in person. I actually was with DEQ yesterday at the Groundwater Advisory Committee and had quite a good conversations with them. They have led to a more responsive and collaborative relationship. DEQ has provided the authority much needed expertise and understanding on topics and receptive to changes and ideas to improve the service authority. The consent order was signed as of December 13, 2024 concerning Perkins Corner as strict requirements until that plant will be decommissioned in January 1st of 2027. And the most important part of that is due to responsiveness and relationship building, the authority incurred no fines, and I think that's a big win. For 2025, we have a look ahead. A new general manager that fits the needs of the authority will be advertised and hired. A roadmap to success, almost complete, and will be brought before the board for discussion and approval next year. Setting the new hire for the general manager for a path that is in cement, not straw, and agreed upon. Per Oakland Park, as we mentioned earlier, the PER for the decommissioning will be brought before the board once it is finalized. It was sent back to the engineering company because there was a lot of questions and it needed to be tightened up. So that should be coming in the future. A detailed report on the financials. I know Mr. Rasavi and finance are working on that hard, and the debt capacity of the authority. Also revisiting all of the fees, and with that, an extensive look at the current bill and changes to its current look and information contained in it. And better communication methods to get the word out to customers and provide historical data. An educational component will also be included to introduce topics around water, wastewater, and conservation. And I've already talked to Ms. Southall about doing some videos for that. So I know that was a lot of information. Do I have any questions or any other things that board members would like to highlight? That being said, thank you everybody for the Service Authority and a Merry Christmas from the Service Authority. And I will also next ask for secondary public comment to address meeting business matters only. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. Please provide your full name and district when submitting your public comment so that it can be properly recorded and included in the public record. Anna Marie, I knew you'd come up.
Hi, my name is Ana Maria Lobo. I live in. My name is. Thank you, sir. My name is Ana Maria Lobo. I live in Presidential Lakes. I appreciated all the things you're saying, but really I would like in writing. Then I can keep it, those things, because I have many things in writing, and then I believe it what you're saying. The people of King George will appreciate that too. Please, you send it to the citizen in the mail or whatever, and they know you accomplished what you're doing all this year. You've been doing a great job. I appreciate it, but then write it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fish, I think, has a copy for you right away. This will also be on the web. I worked until about 1 o'clock on this, so Ms. Fish is going to put it on the website also and attach it to the agenda. Oh, it is on now. It is on now. And I did want to mention one other thing is the consent order. That will be online. I think you can find it on DEQ's website, so you can actually give public comment. It will be open for public comment for 30 days, and then DEQ signs the order, and then it will be like a court order document. So if you want to give public comment, it should be available. And Mr. Wasabi, you have to.
One thing we forgot to mention is the jetter trailer that you all purchased several months ago. That's supposed to be arriving here within the next few weeks, which will allow our maintenance crews to clean the pump stations and other areas that, so we'll be attempting to perform the work with the right equipment.
Thank you. One thing I did forget. Thank you for highlighting that. Do I have any other questions or a motion for adjournment?
I'd like a motion to adjourn to Tuesday, January 7th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. in the boardroom of the Rubicon Building.
That has to be amended because if you notice 2024, an oopsie.
I'm sorry, you're right.
That's all right. It's written. It's all good.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the Board of Directors to Tuesday, January 7th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. in the boardroom of the Rubicon Building. This will be the organizational meeting at the King George County Service Authority Board of Directors.
Thank you. Do I second? Properly seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. The Board of Directors is adjourned. We will now move back over to the Board of Supervisors. We change the page. We have no presentations, correct, Mr. Smolnik? So we'll move on to 1209, which is an action item, Dahlgren Master Parks Plan. Mr. Smolnik?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This item was presented to the board last month. If you can recall, there was an IFB or an RFP put out. There were several agencies responded. There was a selection committee, and the selection committee chose McGill Associates for a master plan for the Dahlgren area parklands. There were some questions raised by the Board of Supervisors regarding wetlands, whether or not the home site was included, and some of the historical work on the property. Talking with Mr. Clark of Parks and Rec, so the wetlands will be delineated per Army Corps engineers. This will be boots on the ground, GPSed. So there's actual field work going on for the delineation of those wetlands. The home site that I think it's called the Buckler Home, that is not included in this master plan. And then as far as historical services, a preliminary historic survey will be done. However, if there is archaeological work that needs to be done on the site per the proposal, that is a cost that is above and beyond. So those are 3 questions that the board had, and I hope those answers provide some further guidance. Does the board have any other questions on this particular proposal? Okay, so if there are no questions, recommended action would be to authorize the county administrator to execute a professional service agreement with McGill Associates for the master plan of Dahlgren area parklands in the amount of $93,300, subject to approval as to form by the interim county attorney.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion properly seconded. Do I have further discussion on this matter? That being said, all those in favor say aye.
Roll call.
Oh, that's right. Thank you, Mr. Stroud. Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Mr. Sullins?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Next up for discussion is 1210 Hop Yard Sections 9, 11, and 17.
Thank you, ma'am. So we've been contacted. There's several sections of roads in the Hop Yard development, sections 9, 11, and 17 that are ready for acceptance into the VDOT system. VDOT's walk these punch lists have been completed. In your packet are the names of the roads along with some sketches and some resolutions. So, you know, I know this is a discussion item, but if the board would like to carry it on to the next meeting, that is fine with me. However, there are resolutions in here for the acceptance of to VDOT to accept the roads from 9, 11, and 17 in Hop Yard. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Smalley, am I correct? Only section 10 is left, correct? I think.
I believe that is correct.
Do I have any questions?
No.
I guess we'll move it to the next, or would anybody like to make a motion on it?
I'd like to make a motion that we move on approving it.
All right, would you like to make that motion then?
I move that we approve the Hop Yard sections 9, 11, and 17 as presented for adoption into the VDOT.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion properly seconded. Does this need to be roll call vote or just roll call? All right. Any further discussion? Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Mr. Sullins?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Next up is the county administrator's report. Mr. Smolnik, we've been waiting for this. I know Mr. Davis has been waiting for this.
Thank you, ma'am. So I'm going to save the best for last, if I may. I'm just going to switch it up a little bit. So the first thing that I have is another IGSA, so intergovernmental services agreement with the base. Mr. Adam Lynch is still here if you do all have any questions. This was sent to the Board of Supervisors, and this pertains to the water and sewer for Barnesfield Park. As the bridge is my understanding, you know, as the bridge work was being done, the lines to serve Barnesfield Park, the potable water and sewage, those are actually coming from the base. And the base provides these services at no charge to the county. Had some discussions with the representatives at the base, and in lieu of charging the county for the water and sewer fees for Barnesfield Park, this IGSA was, and this is something they've been looking to get approved for a little while now. In lieu of charging the county, just say for instance, it's a $3,000 a year fee for water and sewer. The base would have $3,000 worth of fees to our Parks and Rec facility should they want to hold a softball game or soccer tournament or something along those lines. The fees, I guess the credits that they would bank expire December 31 of every year. So it's not like they can bank this money and all of a sudden have $40,000 worth of fees. So that's what this government agreement is. Instead of being charged for water and sewer, we would give them the same amount of usage of our Parks and Rec facilities.
Anybody have any questions on that matter or would like to make a motion?
I don't have any questions, but I'm not sure what the motion would be.
Could you?
The motion would be to authorize the county administrator to enter into an IGSA for Barnesfield Park, I believe is the title. Let me just double check on that. I want it for the record, Mr. Stroud. So yeah, to authorize the county administrator to enter into an agreement with an intergovernmental support agreement between Naval Support Activity South Potomac and King George County, Virginia for water and sewer usage.
I move that it so stated.
Do I have a second? Right, with the motion properly seconded, do I have any discussion? Roll call vote, Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Stroud?
Aye.
Mr. Sullins? Chair votes aye, motion carries. Continue on, Mr. Smolnik.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Lynch. So the next item, legislative agenda resolution at our December 3rd board meeting, we finalized what I presented and the board mutually agreed upon the items in their first ever legislative agenda for King George County. These will be forwarded to our legislative representatives and a few others in the general area so that the General Assembly understands the priorities of the King George Board of Supervisors as the General Assembly reconvenes here in early January. So this would just be a formal resolution, and we've put into a resolution format everything that was presented last month, all your particular priorities are resolution form, and the request would be that you adopt this resolution and authorize me to send it to our legislative representatives prior to the 26th General Assembly session. 25, I'm sorry.
Have anybody want to, any questions, discussion before I call for a vote? Right. Do you have anybody who would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Okay, one more thing, Madam Chair. This is the State of the County address. So I wanted to really just, first of all, reach out to and thank the Board of Supervisors, the citizens of King George County for welcoming me. I'm in my seventh month here. The schools, the community for welcoming my family, and really most importantly, the staff. I spend more waking hours with my staff than I do my own family. They are my family away from home. And just really want to appreciate each and every one of the men and women who work for King George County and the Service Authority. And really this State of the County address, I couldn't have done it without them. All the information, the information they pulled from the first 5 months when I was not here, along with, some of the highlights and just really putting everything together. So this shout out goes to really my staff here at King George County. I'm not going to read the entire thing. However, I will touch on a few things. So 2024, we implemented a new zoning and subdivision ordinance. We launched a brand. The EDA sold a lot in the industrial park. Finalized over $20 million in ARPA projects that was discussed earlier. Selected a firm to complete A&E services for a new fire station. Hosted our highest attendance to date at the Independence Celebration, Shred Event, and Household Hazardous Waste. And we increased a bond rating. The bond rating is important. So whenever we go borrow money, we get a better rate and save the citizens money. So the financial responsibility of this board and the departments, kudos to you. And without going through the entire list, I do want to pick out a couple other highlights from the different departments. So, an administration implemented a FOIA log outlining requests to better track the status. I know by May of 2024, FOIA requests had increased by 400% compared to the prior year. So it was a busy year for tracking FOIA. The clerk of the circuit court digitized 15 years of chancery law and civil files for approximately 15 years. They've implemented a new free property notification service that allows users to receive notices for selected names when they were recorded within the circuit court. The clerk of the Board of Supervisors adding quick links to the agenda to increase access to the video recordings for the meetings, and also the quick links for the specific agenda items versus having one big PDF and scrolling through the entire document trying to find something. Trying to provide better access for citizens to understand what items are being discussed at the board and all the details for each individual document. Commissioner of the Revenue succeeded in transitioning from a non-prorating taxes to a prorating taxes. That was a big change. And they selected Wampler Eanes Group to conduct the 2026 general reassessment of the properties in King George County. Community development, here's the big thing, restored a turnaround goal of 10 days for building permits. Instead of the backlog that we had there, they're down to 10 days, if not sooner now. So that's a big win for working with new businesses, with any citizen coming in looking to build something here in the county. That department generated a little over $800,000 in revenue as of November of 2024. Community engagement, we already talked about the new brand. They also completed the Native American Heritage Trail. I know that was we had that unveiling earlier this summer. That's a great thing. It's been a very popular tourism activity here in the county. And Amy Southall really published a comprehensive budget summary to increase financial transparency. This is on our Board of Supervisors, how every dollar is spent in the county by department. So that's, again, more transparency for our citizens, how the money is spent. We talked about the lot that the Economic Development Authority sold. We, received 85 business licenses in 2024. The EDA established an LGIP account. Of their $1.6 million, they've taken 155 of it, invested in a high interest account, let their money work for them. So, new EDA board on staff, really looking forward to what 2025 is going to bring with this new crew on board. A couple more things, finance and procurement, along with engineering and service authority, been very busy. They're the ones who really worked on the behind the scenes for the awarding the bids of the particular projects, the wastewater treatment plants and the Dahlgren Fire Station, the 2026 real estate reassessment and the field lighting at Sealston Sports Complex. They established ACH payments for vendor bills. So now we have ACH payments just to, no need to cut a check anymore and wait for it to be mailed via US mail and wait for that check to be cut. It's ACH deposit, so these vendors who work in the county and for the county get paid a lot quicker. Fire rescue, over 4,100 emergency calls as of November 2024 is what they responded to with a shortage of some staff. They started the county's first Opticom preemption of all traffic lights. So what these are, the rescue vehicles will have equipment on them that as they approach an intersection, it'll automatically turn the light green for that emergency vehicle responding to a call, so they don't have to wait and try to dodge traffic when the opposing ways have the green light. So it'll automatically make our response time much safer for our first responders. Moving on, the Christmas tree lightings. I know this will be my first year here. A couple weeks ago when I drove down Route 3 to see the lights up. And I believe General Properties expanded that, bought some additional ones, increased the amount of holiday lights here to add to the festivities and the cheer in the King George Courthouse area. For GIS, it plotted 77 maps for citizens and inserted a fats, oil, and grease data to the water and sewer data app for the Service Authority. So great work with our two GIS guys, making everything happen for them and the citizens. Human Resources launched a new applicant tracking system called Criterion to smooth out the application process for those looking for employment here within the county. The library launched a new LED sign to market different events. As you come down Route 3, they keep everybody updated on their happenings. So that's a great win for the community. Parks and Rec repaved the parking lot, added field lights to Sealston Sports Complex, new lights to the baseball and softball fields at King George Middle School. So we can extend practice, extend games here in the nighttime hours during the summertime and fall. Registered office, I know we had a presentation by Ms. Gump. 41% of people, registered voters, voted early here in King George. They were very busy, and you heard this report from Ms. Gump, so kudos to her department. We heard the Service Authority update. Ms. Bender gave a very detailed report. Sheriff's Office switched to a new radio system, and they have a new patrol boat. And then there's a patrol boat. I think it was bought 3/4 with a grant, and there's the F-250 that they had in the parade. That was completely not in this particular year, but the Sheriff's Department knows how to find the grants. So they got their boat. Certified 2 deputies as commercial vehicle inspectors. We haven't had that. Social Services recognized as the second highest rated kinship placements in the state, working with our high school on work-based learning opportunities. One thing that I really want to push here as a county administrator is working with our youth in the schools. I know there's going to be Ms. Rinko, who was recently recognized at our county luncheon as a Citizen Award winner for the Making a Difference Award. I know she invited me to an apprentice signing day, first ever in King George High School, and really get our young men and women. How can we bolster the trades and get them into the workforce with no college debt and create that workforce here in King George County? So, kudos to Ms. Rinko and the staff at King George Public Schools, great public school system. Solid waste and recycling, we talked about their attendance, repairs some infrastructure, the convenience center for a safer environment for our users, the Virginia Cooperative Extension, increased enrollment from to 102 students for 4-H camp. I know I saw a flyer already coming out for this upcoming summer looking for counselors and then the participants for that particular camp. And they helped 9 youth win first place for the Spin Club parade performance at the KG Fall Festival. Again, a great work with the youth of our community. So this particular, the full document, along with a letter from myself, will be placed, if it's not already on the King, it already is on the King George County website for the citizens. We can have hard copies if anybody should want one. But again, what a wonderful 7 months this has been. And I just look forward to a bright future here with the Board of Supervisors, with the King George County staff and the citizens here. So thank you for all these wonderful opportunities.
Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Stroud?
I don't have any questions. I do have a few comments. I'd like to thank the county administrator for improving the motivation of the county employees through his positive leadership. I've had a number of employees that have mentioned it to me, and just in passing, that their impression of you and your leadership is a very positive thing, and they feel better about working at the county. You've rebuilt the trust in the county administrator's role in the office, and developing high integrity, displaying high integrity in the office. You're available, accessible, and approachable. Those are all things that I think are imperative in that position. And lastly, your office has been highly transparent, evidenced by your reports at our meetings, the report tonight, and it's a great improvement over the last county administrator, who's mostly were based on employee birthdays. And you've already reported tonight. I mean, this is incredible, and posting it online for everybody to see. So appreciate you and your staff. Thank you very much, sir.
Anybody else would like to, questions, comments? All right. Thank you, Mr. Smolnik, for a really good report and very thorough. Before we do our closed session, I'm going to open up the secondary public comment. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. In order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak, please provide your full name and district when submitting your public comment so that it can be properly included in the public record. Does anybody like to come up and give public comment? Anna Marie, do you want to go the third time? Third time's the charm. Anybody? Is there anybody online who would like to give public comment? Have we received any correspondence since we've been sitting here? Not with that. Mr. Solons?
Yes, ma'am. Pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A7, I move that the King George County Board of Supervisors convene a closed session for discussion of Walnut Hill with legal counsel and briefings by staff members and consultants, where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiation or litigating posture of the public body. I invite the county administrator, the chief deputy Commonwealth attorney, counsel for jail properties, and members of jail properties as needed because they are deemed necessary and/or their presence will reasonably aid the board in its consideration of one or more of the topics to be discussed, pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3712F.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion properly seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. We are in closed session. Just tell me when you're ready, Jeff. All right, we're ready. Mr. Solms?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to return to open meeting. I move that the King George County Board of Supervisors return to public meeting and certify by vote that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered during the closed meeting, and no action was taken.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So roll call certify?
So certified.
So certified.
So certify.
So certify. We are back in open session. Mr. Solon, do you have a motion?
Yes, ma'am. I move that we add the Walnut Hill Settlement Agreement as an action item to the agenda of the January 7th, 2025 meeting of the board.
Do I have a second? Do I have any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. One other thing I forgot to mention earlier is, I know we need to look at the bylaws and changing some items, but one of the things I just wanted to throw out there to rumination and thinking about is possibly changing our board meetings to start at 4:30 instead of 5:30. I know Mr. Sullins was going to do that expression. I was just putting it out there. So
I second that.
just a discussion item. I know we have a lot of staff that do get overtime to have to appear. A lot of other localities do that. Just a discussion item at 4:30, or maybe have the service authority be earlier in the afternoon and then a break and then have the board of supervisors. Just all options that maybe we can consider at the organizational meeting. So with that being said, and Mr. Solon's lovely expression, would I have a motion for adjournment?
Yes, I move that we adjourn until Tuesday, January the 7th, 2024, at 5:30 p.
2025.
Sorry, 2025, 5:30 p.m. in the boardroom of the River Call Building.
That's right. Do I have a second?
Second.
The second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we'll see you in 2025.